Here we see from the true teaching of the great sage that when the three types of being difficult to save, those afflicted with the three kinds of sickness difficult to cure, entrust themselves to the universal vow of great compassion and take refuge in the ocean of Shinshu, that is, amid us benefiting others. The Buddha is filled with pity for them and heals them, commiserates with and cures them. It is like the wondrous medicine called manda, curing all illness. Being of the defiled world, the multitudes possessed of corruption and evil should seek and think on the diamond-like, indestructible true mind. They should hold steadfast to the primal vow, which is the wondrous medicine called manda. Reflect on this. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. Namanda Butsu. Namanda. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Hanamatsuri service, and it's nice to see so many of you today. And Hanamatsuri, as Jane introduced, literally means the flower festival. But this is the birthday of Shakyamuni Buddha, the founder of Buddhism. And Shakyamuni Buddha was born in the Lumbini's garden, where the beautiful flowers bloomed. So we decorate the Hanamizo, the flower altar, imitating the beauty of the Lumbini's garden to celebrate the birth of Shakyamuni Buddha. And we pour sweet tea to the baby Buddha's statue. Because it is said that two dragons appeared in the sky and poured the sweet rain when Shakyamuni Buddha was born. And it is said that Shakyamuni Buddha walked 7 steps after birth. We cannot check if this story is true or not, right? But when we think about it with the common sense, there is no way that the baby walks even for a step right after the birth, right? But it is okay if this story is true or not, because it does not affect our teaching and beliefs. I'm sure that there will be no one who say like, what? This story is not true, then I'm quitting Buddhist, right? But important thing we can learn from this story of the baby Buddha walking 7 steps right after the birth is that Buddhism teaches us the teaching which goes beyond our imagination, beyond our self-centered measure of what is true or not. So this unbelievable story of the baby Buddha walking for 7 steps might be teaching us that we should not rely on our self-centered measure, self-centered judgments, but rely on the teaching which goes beyond our self-centered judgments. And also, the number 7 is really important number too. It is not a random number, right? And in Indian religions, we talk about the 6 realms of transmigration. And this illustration doesn't explain well, but there are 6 realms of Deva, human, fighting spirit, animals, hungry spirits, and hell beings. The number 7 represents that the Buddhism teaching is the teaching which go beyond the 6 realms to be liberated from transmigration. So Buddhism is the path to go beyond birth and death, transmigration. Then, one of the common questions I received from those who learn about the Buddhism for the first time is that there's something like the Bible in Buddhism. But we don't have one single authoritative scripture which Shakyamuni Buddha taught. As some of you know, we have a lot of sutras within Buddhism. Did you know that we have 2, cabinets, right? 2 cabinets. It contains all the sutras and commentaries written in India and China and mostly some of Japan. So we have a lot of sutras. So then, some people might ask again, why there are so many sutras? If the goal of Buddhism is to be liberated from the transmigration, we only need one sutra, isn't it? Right? And this question sounds reasonable. But to answer this question, Shakyamuni Buddha taught the teaching in accord with the conditions and abilities of the person. So there are various teachings. When we think about a farming field, it is the same thing. The certain crops and certain type of soil have affinity to each other. And certain vegetables cannot grow together, but some should grow together. During pandemic, I started to grow vegetables such as eggplant, cucumber, green onion, tomato, and zucchini, mostly summer vegetables. But, it was in tiny area, but I researched online to see which vegetables can grow together and which are not. And to take care of the tiny garden was really difficult for me. And I know we have some farmers in our Sangha, and I really respect the work you do to grow delicious vegetables and fruits and deliver to us. So thank you all the farmers for your work. So just as the affinity of the vegetables and crops and soil, Shakyamuni Buddha looked at the conditions and abilities of people.
Vegetables.
Yeah, vegetables, right? And he taught the teaching in accord with it.
I love them.
So, yeah, actually vegetable is really good for you, so don't lose your love to the vegetables. And so oftentimes, the relationship of Shakyamuni Buddha and the followers are likened to the relationship of the doctor and the patient. The sutra, the teaching is just like the doctors at general hospitals, like internal medicine, surgical, and so on. If we have stomachache, we should go to the doctor for internal medicine, right? If we break the bones, we should go see the orthopedics. So then the doctor prescribes the medicine, and the medicine is just like a practice in Buddhism. So if we have headache and take medicine for stomachache, we cannot heal stomachache, nor headache, right? And there are medicines for the certain symptoms. So the contents of the sutras varies because the conditions and abilities of the people varies. And there are suitable practices in accord with the conditions. Or maybe I could say that the practice in Buddhism is like recovery plan. This is a plan for the patient to recover from the illness. And I have talked about this before, but I think it was when I was 26 or 27. I had really strong stomachache that I could not sleep. Then I thought it is just a stomachache and it will go away soon. But next day, I had the same pain. And I still thought, well, it goes away soon. But next day, I finally decided to go see the doctor because the symptom did not improve. Then I had to go through MRI, and the doctor said, I have diverticulitis. So the doctor asked me, you have two choices. Hospitalized for a few days to get better, or go home, don't eat anything solid, or don't drink alcohol for a few days. And I didn't want to be hospitalized. So I said, well, I go home, I do not eat solid food and try not to drink alcohol. Right? Then the doctor gave me medicine and told me to follow what he said. But it is difficult to keep what the doctor tells us to do, right? So it took actually a couple of weeks to really recover from the pain. So what I want to say here is that as there are various recovery plans, there are countless practices in Buddhism, such as 6 parameters, Eightfold Noble Path, and something like 90 days continuous practice of Nembutsuge, right? So in Buddhism, for instance, in Four Noble Truths, we are told that we are suffering, we are feeling unsatisfactoriness because of our afflictions, our self-centered nature. So to leave this affliction and our self-centered nature, we practice. So this is the basic structure of Buddhist path. So the Buddhism begins with knowing what kind of person we are. And by knowing what kind of person we are, we know which path to follow. However, it is difficult to see ourselves. As you know, I have 2 children. When we are having meals, sometimes Hikaru have rice on his cheek. I tell him that, oh, you have rice on cheek, and right there on your cheek. But he touches wrong place and takes long time to find the rice. Because he cannot see himself, it is difficult to recognize where the rice is on his cheek. So as same as this, it is difficult to see ourselves, especially inside of ourselves. So we rely on the words of the Buddha, the masters from the past, and Shinman Shonin to learn what kind of person we are. Then, all of them teaches us that we are ordinary foolish beings who are possessed of afflictions, passions, which blind ourselves from seeing the truth, such as the 3 poisons of greed, anger, and ignorance. And these poisons never exhaust themselves. That is why we should rely on the teaching taught in the larger sutra and the medicine of the Nembutsuge. And of course, the practices such as 6 parameters, Eightfold Noble Paths are great practices which were taught by Shakyamuni Buddha. But when I consider the condition and ability of myself, I realize that it is not the practice, medicine for me to experience liberation from the transmigration. So for being like me, who is burdened by the 3 poisons, Shakyamuni Buddha recommended the path of Nembutsuge, a path to entrust ourselves to the working of the name Namo Amida Butsu. So then, some people might wonder, what is the difference between Shakyamuni Buddha and Amida Buddha anyway? And as you know, Jodo Shinshu temples and Obutsudans at home, Obutsudan means like home altar, have Amida Buddha's statue or image or Amida Buddha as the object of reverence. Amida Buddha is the Buddha who vowed to save all sentient beings through the working of the name Namo Amida Butsu. And Shakyamuni Buddha is the one who praises the working of Namo Amida Butsu and recommends it to all beings. So recently, I was reading the writings by a Chinese master named Chant, and in his commentary, he said, one Buddha is all the Buddha. One Buddha is all the Buddha. What one Buddha preaches, that is what all the Buddha preaches. So, Amida Buddha vowed to save all beings, and Shakyamuni Buddha praises the fulfillment of the vow and recommends the working of the name Namo Amida Butsu. Because the medicine is great, the doctor cannot help but recommending it to all beings. So I could say that Amida Buddha is the one who became the medicine, and Shakyamuni Buddha is the one who recommends the medicine. And this is Jodo Shinshu way of understanding. But Shakyamuni Buddha is the manifestation of Amida Buddha. Shakyamuni Buddha appeared in this world to teach us the teaching of Nembutsuge. So, it's been how many years? 6 years? 7? No, 6 years, right? Since I came here, Oregon Buddhist Temple. I didn't mention Why I'm saying it right now? Because I learned like recently. But we should have two obuppans, rice offering to the image of Amida Buddha. Do you know why? Why two? Why not just one? Why two? That is because we are offering the rice to Shakyamuni Buddha and Amida Buddha. Right? We don't have statue of Shakyamuni Buddha in Jodo Shinshu temples. But it does not mean that we are ignoring Shakyamuni Buddha or neglecting Shakyamuni Buddha. But because Shakyamuni is considered a manifestation of Amida Buddha, we only have Amida Buddha's statue in our altar. But we are paying respects to Shakyamuni Buddha too. So what I heard from my friend in Japan, we should have two obuppan rice for Amida Buddha statue. But anyway, I know my talk is kind of a little bit overwhelming and it's becoming like a lecture. But as I mentioned always, this talk is always on YouTube, so you can go to YouTube and watch over and over again. Right? But to sum up, the Dr. Shakyamuni Buddha recommends us the medicine of Nembutsuge. In other sutras, he recommends different medicines, but it does not mean that Shakyamuni Buddha's teaching contradicts, right? It is because he taught the teaching in accord with the abilities of people. So for a being like me, who is possessed of afflictions, blind passions, there is only one medicine which is available. That is the medicine of Namo Amida Butsu. And because of the working of the medicine, we are able to experience liberation from this transmigration. So that is why Shakyamuni Buddha recommends us the medicine of Namo Amida Butsu. And today, we celebrate the birth of Shakyamuni Buddha. Without Shakyamuni, we were never able to gather here today as Buddhists. So let us appreciate Shakyamuni Buddha for sharing the teaching of Nembutsuge, and let us keep enjoying listening to the teaching together as Dharma friends who walk the path of Nembutsuge. So thank you very much again for attending the service today. And in closing, please join me in Gassho. Please put your palms together. Here we see from the true teaching of the great sage that when the three types of beings difficult to save, those afflicted with the three kinds of sickness difficult to cure, entrust themselves to the universal vow of great compassion and take refuge in the ocean of Shinji, that is Amida's benefiting others. The Buddha is filled with pity for them and heals them, commiserates with and cures them. It is like the wondrous medicine called Manda, curing all illness. Beings of the defiled world, the multitudes possessed of corruption and evil, should seek and think on the diamond-like, indestructible true mind. They should hold steadfast to the primal vow, which is the wondrous medicine called Manda. Reflect on this. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Nam.